everyone. We're live from Denver, Colorado. A little windy here, but nice. Really, really nice out. Compared to a lot of wintry weather you guys are all having. I'm hoping we don't get any more snow this week. Um, so today we're filming, we're doing little, just short films of the collections that are coming out for January release. The sales reps are showing to the stores right now. So you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek. It's going to go up on the website, these little short descriptions or something like that pretty soon. But we were filming that today. So that's what I have set up in the back. So anyway, hey, how are you? This is for the love of batiks, and I'm talking about inspiration today. I kind of thought that was, let you in behind my design process, I guess. Everyone's different, when you're designing something. But for my process, first I start with inspiration. How do you get inspiration? Where do you get inspiration? It's everyday life, right? Um, we do a lot in batik, we do a lot with floral. We do a lot with conversational sometimes, or, kind of more focused areas. I'm thinking of Ride On in my head right now. Ride On is all about biking, right? Hi, Leslie. Hi, Judy. Thanks for joining me today. So you can look at it and you can say, well, what's an inspiration, or what's a good focus, I guess, for a boutique that it will sell throughout the market, right? So if I'm doing something like elevation, which is skiing, then maybe in coastal communities or coastal the shops there won't necessarily sell as much of it, right? So I need to think of the shop or our customer when I'm designing that. So just like your inspiration, when you have an inspiration for a quilt project, who is it going to? Or maybe it's the fabric, you just love it and you see a quilt in the quilt shop, and you want to make it, and you purchase a kit, and that's your inspiration, right? Sometimes my inspiration is a floral. Let's start there. Behind me is community garden, and community garden is all about the florals. We actually started with succulents, or inspiration in 2020. Hi, Scott. Hey, Paul. Inspiration in 2020. We're all starting to garden again and do canning and all of that kind of thing. So how do you narrow that down then? How do you take it and say, yeah, it's all about gardening or all about florals, or how can you do that? How can you take it and narrow it down just a little bit? Do you think of style, how a style of drawing, or style of how you're going to portray that to the end user, or you think about color, of course. You think about, okay, what kind of repeat am I looking for? Is there a formula for a collection? In batiks, we don't really have a formula. We kind of go with a lot of different things, that's why I love it. But I like to marry an inspiration and marry it with a technique. I'm really into that because I love what my factories can come up with in Indonesia, and the different kinds of techniques that I can showcase to you all in the quilting community. And you guys have been embracing it, so I really appreciate that. Oh, wow. Patricia, Janet, and Christine, hey, thanks for joining me today. We're talking inspiration, okay? Inspiration and what you do with it, okay? So how do you narrow it down then, right? How do you, let's talk about a collection I have coming, or that's in the January release. It's called Music Notes. You can kind of see it here. These are the headers, okay? And Music Notes, I wanted to do a music collection, right? I wanted to think about that. But what kind of music? Well, we're in the Roaring Twenties again, right? If you think back in the Roaring Twenties, it was a jazz age. It was all that jazz and that kind of feel. And you think about the big bands and the trumpets. Yeah, I can see in my head an image of a trumpet player and just music sketched coming out of the trumpet. Okay, and how does that translate? Let's see if I can get it right there, right? That translates the music. You can feel the music coming out. So if I'm going with that, where else do I go? Well, let's do a collage of instruments or the microphones, the old antique microphones. What if we did something like that? Okay, so I did a collage with all of those, and it's got to kind of be that style, right? I want that style of music, the saxophones, the drums, the microphones. And then you take it one step further. Do you want it a line drawing? Or do you want it more filled in? You start to think of how you would translate it to batiks, but you can't get stuck on the inspiration. You can't let that inspiration limit you. So I don't usually name a collection until we're in the strikeoff phase. So I've already gone through all of this and narrowed it down and done sketches and we've done colorations. And then we get the strikeoffs in from Indonesia and we're looking at them. And that's when we start to come up with a name. Because if you're stuck on a name and you're trying to fit something, a round peg in a square hole, it's not going to work. So I don't stick, I don't, like, I didn't call this all that jazz, right? That was my inspiration. But did I know that that's what it would reflect in the final collection? No, I didn't. Okay. One thing I did want to point out in this particular collection is technique. Remember when I said I could marry technique with the theme or the inspiration, and that's what I did here. I love this. This is a double chop application. And what it does is it shows the music notes a little bit larger. You've got a diagonal stripe and you've got that movement of the swirl. And so style-wise, it works really, really well. And if any of you remember my pattern called Chevron Falls, we taught that a couple times in a couple of shops in upstate New York. Um, that one is going to be the free downloadable pattern with this particular collection. So you can check it out on the Banyan Batiks website. But it shows how to use this. This would be a great border, right? That's an easy. But it will show how to use this in a different kind of unique way. So music notes, that was the inspiration. And we talked about it last week a little bit. Leanne and Barb, thanks for joining me. We talked a little bit about dots last week, and I showed this particular one. And I mentioned that, okay, how do you put dots in like a music collection, right? Well, if you're headed to an orchestra concert or something like that, it's the string of pearls that you wear. I can always put a polka dot in everywhere, right? Okay. All right. So let's go back to community garden that I have behind me, and I'll give you a little bit of a close up there. Community garden. So yeah, we have a battle here in the studio. We're trying to keep our succulents alive. We fail miserably, but we have two right now that are alive, and we're very proud of the fact. Okay. So that was the inspiration, right? So I had a color palette, and I have a color palette that's kind of talks to that particular color, right? The color stories in there. This one in particular, I guess. Okay. It kind of gives that inspiration, definitely, But if I had named this thing succulents, the other two color palettes really wouldn't have worked so well. So what I had to do is think, okay, how can I put this? Because these blues are just so nice. And I went a little away from succulents when I started sketching the poppies. They had the same feel, and they are more kind of the main print of this, but it's a little bit different than obviously the succulents, right? This one is more technique. It's got the colors in it, okay? So it's kind of hand painting the fabric with slime, okay? And that's what gives that kind of effect. And this is more of a kind of a sketch look. So I married the succulents with mid-century modern look with this sketching that I had done here. So I had an inspiration, succulents, but then style-wise, what was I going to do, right? So you can start with your inspiration, but then you got to think, okay, how am I going to bring it all together and cohesive with that? Then I really just adored some of the colors in this particular one. And it's the blue, the white on blue. I love it. I love the freshness of the toss. And then the poppies here with kind of a blue-black ground on it. You always have to have a red poppy, right? So that didn't necessarily reflect succulent. Community garden, that was it. So I didn't stick with, okay, I have to fit this into the inspiration. That was the start. That's the leaping off point of it. And then you've got, I want to include a technique, obviously, and a different color palette. Okay. Bandana, definitely that road trip, right? And this is, I think I said something about that warm pair of jeans, right? This is it, you know, the soft, just the chambray color. And then there's all of those kind of recognizable motifs that I was able to just throw in there. And you have to be careful of scale. This was the inspiration. This piece is the inspiration, but I also have to see what I can fit in there that makes it clear in a batik. This one, just love it. It gives the idea of the fireworks, but I didn't go bursts. When we do quilts of valor, you got to think about that, right? You can't think about all these bursts and that kind of thing. You want to put something that's got more of a motif in it. So, and then I like it with this one here is, and I don't know if you can see it because it's a tone on tone, but maybe you can see it here on this one. It's more of a bandana, right? And it's a little bit, we're talking a little bit about the bandanas we're wearing or the masks. Another thing in this collection, and this is kind of different, it's an inspiration. How can I put a floral in the bandana group? Okay, it's more geometrics, right? I put this one in here and it's a posy. Okay, inspiration came from Remembrance Day or Ring Around the Rosy, Pocket Full of Posies, Ashes, Ashes, We All Fall Down. Where did that come from? That nursery rhyme came from the plague. So this particular collection, the inspiration wasn't pretty necessarily as far as, 2020, but it came out with a very beautiful print. Okay, let's go quickly to elevation. Elevation, kind of obvious, okay, as far as where it came from. But what I have to do is, this is a conversational, I have to say, okay, I want to go with the retro look, retro skiers, okay? And then I put the retro kind of snowshoes in there. That was something I just started trying last year, and I just love it. It's something a little bit different, okay? Luau is another one. I'm doing a shout out to the restaurants. The restaurants are struggling right now, and I really wanted to say, hey, get out there. Taco Tuesday. That used to be a very slow day, and the restaurants made it something that was quite a bit different. Okay, so that was my jumping off point, and I went there with different florals. I didn't go with a hibiscus or a large floral because I had a lot of other large prints in here. I went with this particular one. And you can see it's a softer, smaller one. And actually, the lays that you're given as a male, they're made out of the nuts and the small, tiny flowers. So that was my inspiration for that. So each particular design can also have an inspiration to it. Okay. I want to mention another one, Painter's Palette. There's this one in particular is just kind of different. Okay, Pierre Frey, look him up, Frey. Okay, he was the inspiration actually for this print. Okay, combine it with Jackson Pollock. All right, and you have the entire inspiration for this collection here, the Painter's Palette collection. What I did is I tied it in with a technique. This particular technique, and here's another colorway. Okay. Is kind of a hand-painted, very large plaid with splatter on it. Okay, so we did it with the plaid with the squirt bottles, and then I had to draw this. This is a chop application on top of it. This is phenomenal as a background. Normally you think, okay, I need a small print as a background, right? This is a very large print, but it's phenomenal as a background. One of the project designers that we work with put it as a background, and I was just, oh my gosh, blown away by what she had done. Okay, this one right here, very interesting color palettes, very tight, interesting color palettes. And the supporting prints are just so pretty. Okay, so you've got a contrast then Okay, he may be my inspiration, that right there, but I want something to contrast. I wanted this right here, a very soft and pretty contrast. When I do aqua, I have someone in mind, Barb, who just adores it. And I'm always thinking, okay, how can I play with that and make it a little bit fresh and new and different? Of course, I did mention ride on and bikes, right? How many different ways can you do bikes? Well, let's start to think of 3 chop applications. So this whole thing was on inspiration, okay, and just giving you a look into how I start to come up with collections for Banyan Batiks. Make sure you comment today, and we'll go through and we'll draw a name and send you some beautiful and fun batiks. Thanks so much for joining me.